Born in the summer of 1819 in the small rural town of Ornan, near the French Alps, Courbet grew up in a picturesque setting, surrounded by a caring family. All his life, the artist would be attached to the marvelous nature of these places. He would often visit his homeland, and it was here, inspired by the mountain landscapes and images of his fellow countrymen, that he would create most of his paintings. The father of the painter, Régis Courbet, was a wealthy landowner who paid the bills not only for his only son, but also for his 3 daughters, Zoe, Juliette, and Zélie. In 1831, Gustave entered the local school, where he quickly gained a reputation as a boisterous and prankster student. He liked to be the center of attention and entertain classmates with his wit and charm. His interest in drawing was sparked by Daddy Bod, one of his school teachers. Bode had once been apprenticed to Antoine Gingros, one of the leading neoclassical painters, and now himself encouraged his students to paint as much as possible from life. Courbet's first sketchbooks contain examples of lovingly conscientious sketches of the Lou River and the hills around Ornan. Early drawings, despite their primitiveness and artistic helplessness, are still interesting. They show the persistence of the young man in search of character depicted, persistent diligence, the desire to fully and accurately convey the beauty of his native land. In 1837, the young man entered the Royal College in Besançon. At the insistence of his father, he studied at the Faculty of Law, but was unhappy until he decided to attend classes at the local academy. At the age of 21, Courbet moved to Paris, but did not pursue law. The young artist avoided studying in the studios of any of the many academic luminaries of the period, nor did he enroll in the École des Beaux-Arts. Instead, he took a few lessons from lesser-known teachers and mostly studied on his own, copying paintings by Delacroix, Géricault, and others at the Louvre. He was strongly influenced by the Little Dutch, Spanish painters, particularly Velázquez, Zurbarán, and Murillo, from whom he borrowed the darker tones of the paintings. Among his paintings of the early 1840s are several self-portraits, romantic in conception, in which the artist depicted himself in various roles. 40s, a time of increased work Courbet over himself. The conditions of his life in this period are primitive, almost harsh. He gets up at sunrise, eats bread, and works until dark. The circle of models at this time was narrow. About 1844, in his atelier appears Josephine, sitter, who became his friend, the type of which is repeated in all the female characters in his paintings of this time. The artist hoped to achieve recognition by exhibiting at the Salon. From the early 1840s, he constantly sends canvases to the admissions committee. But only after some time, one of his paintings, Courbet with a black dog, was accepted. In the period from 1841 to 1847, Courbet experimented with styles. He managed to try himself in portraiture, landscape, genre scenes, and even in religious painting. For the first 7 years of his stay in Paris, Salon were accepted only 3 of the 25 works presented by him. In the second half of the 1840s, Courbet met the socialist philosopher Proudhon, the poet Baudelaire, people who played an important role not only in the formation of Gustave Courbet as an artist, but also in the formation of his civic position. He undoubtedly shared Baudelaire's ideas at this time. 1848, the time of their greatest closeness. Courbet sometimes slept at his friend's atelier in the days of moneylessness. It was at this time that the artist wrote a subtle and deeply original portrait of a friend, which Baudelaire, however, remained dissatisfied. In February 1848, the French King Louis-Philippe abdicated from the throne, and the power passed into the hands of the Republican government. The Salon survived, but its selection committee was abolished. Taking the opportunity, Courbet exhibited in the Salon at once 10 paintings. He was noticed. Gustave befriended the critic Champfleury and has since achieved public recognition, confirmed in the following year. The state bought the canvas Afternoon Rest in Ornan, Museum of Fine Arts, Lille. Courbet was awarded a large gold medal. This medal allowed to exhibit paintings in the Salon, not considering the opinion of the Commission, the exclusive right he enjoyed until 1857. However, some other works by Courbet were met with complete misunderstanding and caused outrage. Such was the case in 1849 with Stone Crushers, later destroyed, and then with Funeral at Ornan in the Salon of 1850 to 1851. Stone Crushers is a realistic depiction of two figures engaged in physical labor in a barren countryside. Both works diverge radically from the more controlled, idealized paintings of the neoclassical or romantic school. They depict the lives and emotions of ordinary peasants rather than aristocrats, and do so with realistic insistence. The painting Funeral in Ornan was created in his homeland and dedicated to the memory of his grandfather, who died a year earlier. Rough, dense paste painting conveys the materiality of things. He depicted the social, everyday reality as he saw it himself. The striking simplicity and primitiveness of the composition make this painting exceptionally powerful. Monotonously listing the characters, Courbet creates a smooth, majestic rhythm of heads and figures, reminiscent of ancient reliefs depicting a funeral procession. Funeral at Ornans is a combination of authentic portrait figures. When the artist painted his fellow citizens, he had no rebound from them. Everyone wanted to get into the picture, rejoicing in this honor. The huge painting, measuring 3 by 6.7 meters, broke convention. The artist depicted a prosaic ritual on a scale that would previously have been reserved for a religious or royal subject. The painting lacks the sentimental rhetoric expected in a genre work. Courbet's mourners do not make theatrical gestures of grief, and their faces appear caricatured rather than ennobled. Critics accused Courbet of deliberately pursuing ugliness. Trips to the Netherlands and Belgium later in the decade reinforced Courbet's belief that artists should depict life around them, as Rembrandt, Hals, and other Dutch masters had done. Throughout the 1850s, Courbet painted numerous figurative works using ordinary people and friends as subjects, such as Country Maidens, 1852, Wrestlers, 1853, Bathers, 1853, Sleeping Spinner, 1853, and Wheat Sifters, 1854. Bathers of 1853 is the artist's first work of this size, depicting a nude female body. Depicted by him from the back of a heavy-set woman caused an unprecedented scandal in society. Courbet affirmed the beauty of those women who had been disadvantaged for centuries. His bather, with her heavy thighs and legs and muscular back, was, of course, the antithesis of those glamorous ladies sung by the bards of the Second Empire. Thanks to the support of Adalfred Breuil, an admirer of Courbet's work and a patron of the arts, the artist gained support. Breuil not only paid for several laudatory reviews of Courbet's painting in the press, but also purchased canvases exhibited in the halls of the Salon. From May to September 1854, the artist spent time at the patron's home in Montpellier, where he painted the canvas Meeting. Courbet, with a traveling bag behind his back, in a roomy shirt, with a stick in his hand, steps along the road to set. Breuil and his servant Calas come out and greet him. The silhouettes of the three figures profile against the sky. The entire large and powerful figure of the plebeian Courbet, thrown back with a kind of defiance, is full of confidence and strength, shadowing in the background the figure of the patron of the arts politely greeting him. In the early 1850s, the artist writes several marinas. Courbet sees the sea in Dieppe in 1851, but it is the first time he has long observed the Mediterranean Sea, blue with white foam. Afterward, he says that the sea gave him the same experiences as love. Courbet's supreme achievement during this period was the painting The Artist's Workshop, 1854 to 1855, a true manifesto of painting in which Courbet declared his artistic and political choice. The painting oscillates between two poles, reality and allegory, without favoring either of them. The 30 figures are an entire portrait gallery. Courbet himself presides over all the figures with a simple-minded conceit, working the landscape and turning his back on the nude model, a symbolic representation of academic tradition. In 1855, his paintings were not accepted for the Universal Exhibition. Courbet's response to the refusal was the decision not far from the official French Pavilion of Fine Arts to organize a private exhibition in the Pavilion of Realism. Temporary construction accommodated about 40 paintings, but almost nothing was sold, and reviews in the press were critical. In the catalogue to the exhibition, which was a kind of manifesto of realism, the artist wrote that he seeks to convey the mores, ideas, the image of the era according to his own assessment, to be not only a painter, but also a man, in a word, to create a living art. Simultaneously with Courbet and mostly independently of their author travel, and paintings of the artist, creating his fame in Belgium, Holland, and Germany. Already in 1852, Courbet exhibits in Frankfurt am Main, Funeral in Ornan, and Crusher's Stone. In 1858, he sends their Wildschütze, Prey, and a number of hunting paintings which are accepted there as innovations and have great success. In the same 1858, he goes to Frankfurt am Main and stays there until February 1859. In 1860 to 1870 years, Courbet especially often writes the nude female body. The women on Courbet's canvases are middle-class women who are no strangers to physical labor, but who are not crippled by excessive physical work. Healthy, calm, and bounding like animals, blossoming like ripe fruit, they rest beside trees or streams, often under bottomless skies. They are not idealized, not selected on the principle of graceful forms. In the last years of his life, Courbet painted landscapes, including several scenes of water mysteriously emerging from the depths of the earth in the Jura Mountains, on the border of France and Switzerland. Courbet also worked on sculpture during his exile. He had previously created several sculptures in the early 1860s, one of which, The Fisherman of Chavaux, 1862, he gave to Ornans for a public fountain, but it was removed after Courbet's arrest. On September 4, 1870, during the Franco-Prussian War, Courbet wrote a letter to the Government of National Defense proposing the demolition of a column in Place Vendôme erected by Napoleon III to commemorate the victories of the French army. Courbet was arrested on June 7th. He served his prison term on March 2, 1872, but his concerns over the destruction of the Vendôme column were still unresolved. In 1873, the newly elected President of the Republic, Patrice MacMahon, announced plans to rebuild the column, with Courbet paying the cost. Unable to pay, Courbet went into voluntary exile in Switzerland to avoid bankruptcy. On May 4, 1877, Courbet was told the estimated cost of rebuilding the Vendôme column, 323,091 francs and 68 centimes. He was given the option of paying a fine of 10,000 francs annually for the next 33 years, until his 91st birthday. Despite the warm welcome he received in Switzerland, Courbet fell into decline during his exile. He began drinking heavily and only rarely produced works worthy of his talent. Money and litigation problems became an obsession. On December 31, 1877, the day before the first installment, Courbet died at the age of 58 in La Tour des Pels, Switzerland, of liver disease aggravated by heavy drinking. Thanks for watching to the end. Likes and comments are a great way to support the channel.